Sipurei masios, the third story. The cripple. Once there was a wise man. Before he died, he summoned his sons and his family and told them that they must water trees. You may also earn a living in other ways, but you must also be careful to water trees. With that, the wise man died, leaving behind sons. He had one son who could not walk. He could stand, but he could not walk. His brothers supported him, giving him enough to live on and to have something left over. Little by little, the crippled son saved up some of the leftover money until he had a considerable sum. He thought it over. Why should I have my brothers support my needs? It is better that I start some kind of business of my own. Although he could not walk, he had a plan. He would hire a wagon, a secretary, and a driver. He would travel with them to Leipzig, and then, even though he could not walk, he would be able to do some kind of business. When his family heard his plan, they were very pleased. They said, "Why should we continue to support him? It is better that he earn his own living." They therefore lent him even more money so that he would have enough to run a business. The cripple hired a wagon, a secretary, and a driver, and he set out. They came to an inn, and his secretary suggested that they spend the night there. But he did not want. They implored him. But he was stubborn and continued on his way. Soon, they were lost in the forest, and they were attacked by robbers. This band of robbers originated during a time of famine. A man had come to the city and announced that whoever wanted food should come to him, thus attracting a number of men. He worked with cunning and dismissed the men he could not use. To one he said, "You could be a craftsman," while to another he said, "You can work in a mill." He thus chose only intelligent youths, bringing them into the woods. Then he told them that they should become thieves. From here people travel to Leipzig, Breslau, and other places. Merchants go by, we will rob them and amass money. It was these robbers who attacked the cripple and his men. The driver and secretary were able to flee, but the cripple remained in the wagon. When the robbers came to take the money chest, they asked him, "Why are you sitting there?" The cripple replied that he could not walk. The robbers took the chest and the horses, leaving the cripple on the wagon. The secretary and driver fled to a town. They decided that since they had taken out loans, verkladen in Yiddish, from the wealthy landowners, it would be foolish for them to return home. Since they could be put in chains, it would be better to remain in the town to which they had fled. Here, they would also be able to work as a secretary and a driver. The crippled son had provisions he had brought from home, and as long as he had some dry bread in his wagon, he ate it. Then this was used up, and he did not have anything to eat. He thought it over and threw himself down from the wagon, where he would be able to eat grass. He spent the night alone in the field and was very frightened. He lost all his strength until he could not even stand. He could only crawl, pushing himself along. He ate the grass around him. As long as he could reach out and eat the grass around him, he would remain in one place. Then, when the grass was gone, so that he could not reach anymore, he would push himself further and eat there. He continued eating grass for some time. Then one day, he came across a certain type of grass that he had never eaten before. The grass looked appealing. He had eaten grass for so long now that he was familiar with the various species, but he had never seen any grass like this. He made up his mind that he would pluck it out, root and all. Under the root there was a diamond. The diamond was square, and each side had a different power. On one side it was written that whoever grasped that side, it would carry him to the place that day and night gather and meet together, that is, where the sun and moon meet. When the cripple uprooted the grass concealing the diamond, it turned out that he was grasping that side of the stone. It lifted him up and transported him to the place. Where day and night meet. He looked around and saw that this was the place where the sun and moon come together. He heard the sun and moon speaking. The sun was complaining to the moon, There's a tree that has many branches, each with its own fruit and leaves. Every single branch, fruit, and leaf has its own special power. One has the power to grant children to the childless, while another has the special power to grant livelihood. One has the power to heal one's sickness, and the others have the power to heal different sicknesses. Each one thus has its own different power. The tree must be watered. If it were watered, it would have all these great powers. But not only do I not water it, but when I shine on it, I am drying up. But when I shine on it, I am drying it up. The moon replied, "You are worried about the concerns of others. Let me tell you my problem. I have 1,000 mountains, and around these 1,000 mountains there are another 1,000 mountains. This is the place of the demons. The demons have feet like chickens, and they therefore do not have any strength in their feet. They pull nourishment from my feet, and because of this, I do not have any strength in my own feet. I have a powder, which is a remedy for my feet, but a wind comes and blows it away." "Is that your worry?" answered the sun. "I'll tell you a cure. There is a highway with many roads branching off from it. One is the path of the righteous. When a person is righteous, some dust from this path is sprinkled under every step he takes. Every time he takes a step, he walks on that powder. Then there is the path of the atheist. If a person is an atheist, some powder from this path is scattered under every step he takes. There is also the path of the insane. If a person is insane, dust from this path is sprinkled under him. There are also many other paths. There is also a path for the righteous persons who accept suffering upon themselves. The wealthy landowners lead them in chains, and they do not have any strength in their feet. Some powder from this path is scattered under their feet, and this gives their feet strength. You must therefore go there. There is plenty of powder, and it will be a remedy for your feet." The cripple heard all this. He then looked at the other side of the diamond and saw written there that if one grasps that side, one will be transported to the highway from which the many paths emanate. He grasped that side, and it immediately transported him there. He placed his feet on the path containing the powder that was the remedy for the feet, and he was immediately healed. He then took powder from all the paths, tying it into bundles. He made one bundle of powder from the path of the righteous by itself. He did the same with the powders from the other paths, and he took them all. He then decided to go back to the forest where he had been robbed. When he came there, he chose a tall tree, near the path along which the robbers went out to plunder. He took some powder of the righteous and some powder of the insane, mixed them together, and scattered it on the path. He then climbed the tree and sat there, waiting to see what would happen. A group of robbers who had been sent out by their leader to plunder set out. They came to that path, and as soon as they stepped on the powder, they became righteous. They began to cry out for their souls, since they had previously robbed and killed so many people. However, because this powder was mixed with the powder of the insane, they became insane saints. They began to fight with one another. One said, "It was because of you that we stole," and the other said, "You caused us to steal." This went on until they had all killed each other. The leaders sent out another group, and the same thing happened. They killed one another just as before. This happened again until all the robbers were killed. The ex-cripple realized that none of the robbers remained except for the leader and one other man. The ex-cripple climbed down from the tree and swept away the powder that he had placed on the path. Then he spread pure powder of the righteous and went back to sit in the tree. The head robber was curious, since he had sent out all his robbers, and not a single one had returned. He therefore set out with the one who remained with him. As soon as they came to the path where the ex-cripple had scattered the pure powder of the righteous, he became a saint. He began to cry out. He began to cry out for his soul to his companion because he had killed so many people and had robbed so much property. He tore out graves and repented with great remorse. One more time, sorry. As soon as he came to the path where the ex-cripple had scattered the pure powder righteous, he became a saint. He began to cry out for his soul to his companion, because he had killed so many people and had robbed so much property. He tore out graves and repented with great remorse. When the ex-cripple who was sitting in the tree heard that the head robber was so remorseful and repentant, he climbed down from the tree. Seeing him, the robber began to cry out, "Woe to my soul! I have committed so many crimes. Give me a way to repent." "Give me back the chest that you stole from me," replied the ex-cripple. The robbers had kept a record of everything that they had stolen, including the day and the victim. "I will return it to you immediately," said the chief robber. "I will even give you all the other wealth that I stole, but just give me a means of repentance." "There is only one way that you can repent," said the ex-cripple. "You must go to the city and confess. I am the one who made the announcement way back then, and I caused many men to become robbers. I have robbed and killed many people. This is your repentance." The chief robber gave him all his treasures and went with him into the city. Doing as he had said, since the robber had killed so many people, the people of the city sentenced him to be hanged as an example. The ex-cripple then made up his mind to go to the 2,000 mountains that the moon had mentioned to see what was happening there. When he got there, he stood at a distance from the 2,000 mountains. He saw thousands and myriads of demon families. They have children just like human beings, and therefore they are very numerous. He saw their leader sitting on a throne. No human being ever sat on such a throne. He also saw them joking about the mischief they had done. One said that he had harmed a child, another that he had injured someone's hand, and another that he had injured someone's foot. They also joked in other ways. Then he saw a father and mother demon weeping. "Why are you weeping?" the demons asked. They replied that they had a son who often would take trips, but he would return at a fixed time. But now he had been gone a long time and had not returned. The parents were brought to the king of the demons, and he commanded that messengers be sent all over the world to find their lost son. When the father and mother were returning from the king, they met a demon who had gone together with their son. He was their son's friend, and they had set out together, but now that they met him, he was alone. "Why are you crying?" asked the friend. They told him that their son was missing. He replied, "I will tell you. We had an island in the sea, which we had made our base. The king, who owned this island, decided to build it up, and he began to lay the foundations. Your lost son said to me, 'Let's hurt the king.' With that, we went and took away the king's strength. The king went to physicians, but they could not help him. Then he began to seek advice from sorcerers. There was one sorcerer who knew your son's family. He did not know my family, so he could not do anything to me. But he knew your son's family, so he was able to capture him. He is now torturing him terribly." The parents brought their son's friend, who had told them this, to the king, and he repeated the entire story. The demon king said, "Give the island king back his strength." The friend answered and said, "One of the demons who was with us did not have any strength. We therefore gave him the island king's strength." The demon king said, "Take the strength back from him and give it back to the island king." The friend replied to the king, "The demon to whom he gave the island king's strength became a cloud." The demon king declared that the cloud should be summoned and brought to him. A messenger was sent to get him. The former cripple, who had witnessed all this, said to himself, "I will go and examine this phenomenon. I will see how this individual was transformed into a cloud." He followed the messenger and came to the city where the cloud was. "Why is this city covered by clouds so much?" he asked the citizens. "Not so," they replied. "There has never been a cloud here. The city has been covered by the cloud for only a relatively short time." Then the messenger came and called the cloud, and it left that place. The former cripple decided to follow them and overhear their conversation. He heard the messenger ask the other, "How did you come to be a cloud here?" The other replied, "I will tell you the story. Once there was a wise man. The emperor of his country was a great atheist, and he converted the entire land to atheism. The wise man summoned all the members of his family and said, 'Don't you realize the emperor is a terrible atheist? He has converted the entire land to atheism. He has even made some members of our family into atheists. Therefore, let us leave this place and go into the desert, so that we will be able to continue to believe in God.' They agreed to this. The wise man pronounced a divine name and brought them to a desert. The sage did not consider this desert good, so he pronounced another divine name and transported his group to another desert. he did not find this good either. So he pronounced still another divine name and transported them to still another desert. This he considered good. This desert was close to the 2,000 mountains. The wise man made a circle around his group so that no one would be able to come close to them. There is a tree, and if this tree were watered, none of us demons would survive. We therefore work day and night, digging ditches so that no water can reach that tree. Why must you dig continuously day and night? Asked the messenger. Once you dig your ditches, it should be enough to hold back the water. There are talkers among us, replied the cloud. These talkers go and make strife between one king and another, causing wars. These wars cause earthquakes. The earth around the ditches collapses, and water can then get to the tree. Therefore, our people always must stand by to dig. The cloud then continued his explanation and story. Whenever we appoint a new king, we joke about all the kinds of mischief that we have done, and we are very happy. One jokes about how he damaged a newborn child so that his mother mourned him. They joke about all sorts of different things, discussing all their pranks. When the new king becomes very happy, he strolls around with his royal ministers. He then attempts to uproot the tree. If the tree were no longer there, it would be very good for us. The new king therefore gathers up strength to uproot the entire tree. However, as soon as he comes near it, the tree lets out a very loud scream. The king becomes terrified and turns back. Once we appointed a new king, and we engaged in tremendous frivolity before him, in the manner I have described. The joy was very great, and this gave him very great courage. He said that he would be the one who would uproot the tree completely. He went for a walk with his ministers and gathered up great strength. Then he ran to uproot the tree completely. But when he came to it, it gave out a loud scream, and he was overcome with terror. He turned back with tremendous frustration. On the way, he saw a group of human beings sitting. This was the group around the wise man, which I mentioned earlier. He sent some of his men to harm them in a fitting manner, as was their way. When the family of human beings saw the demons, they were overcome with fear. The sage said to them, "Do not be afraid." The demons approached, but they could not come near the humans because of the circle that the wise man had made around them. The demon king sent other messengers, but they also failed. Greatly frustrated, he himself went, but he could not get close to them. Finally, he asked the old man to let them enter. "Since you are asking," said the old man, "I will let you in. But it is not proper that the king come in alone. I will let another individual come in with you." With that, the sage made an opening and allowed them to come in. Then he closed the circle again. The demon king asked the old man, "Why have you come to settle in our place?" "Why is this your place?" retorted the sage. "It is a place." "Aren't you afraid of me?" said the demon king. "No," replied the sage. "Are you still not afraid?" said the king. With that, he made himself grow larger until he reached the sky. He threatened to swallow the sage. "I'm still not afraid at all," said the old man. "But if you want, I will make you afraid of me." With that, the sage recited a short prayer. Dark clouds appeared, and there was loud thunder. Thunder has the power to destroy demons, and all the royal ministers who had been accompanying the demon king were killed. The only survivors were the king and the other one who was with him inside the circle. The demon king begged the sage to stop the thunder, and it stopped. The demon king then said, "Since you are such a man, I will give you a book containing all the families of the demons. There are some miracle workers, Bali Shem, masters of the name, some miracle workers who only know one family, and do not know even that family completely. But I will give you a book containing all the families, as they are all in the king's records. Every demon who is born must be registered by the king." The demon king sent the one who had been with him inside the circle to get the book. It was good that the sage had allowed another demon to survive, since otherwise there would not have been anyone to send to get the book. The demon brought him the book. The old sage opened the book and saw written in it thousands and myriads of families. The demon king also promised that he would never harm the old sage or any members of his family. He told the old man to bring him portraits of every member of his family. Whenever a child was born, they should immediately bring the demon king the child's portrait. In this manner, no harm would ever be done to the old man's family. Then it came time for the old man to die. He summoned his sons, and as his final testament commanded them, saying, I am leaving you this book. You know that I have the power to make use of this book in holiness. Nevertheless, I do not make use of it. The only thing I use is my faith in God. You also must not use the book. Even if some of you can use it in holiness, do not use it. Have faith in God alone. Have faith in God alone. With that, the wise man died, and the book became part of his heritage. Eventually, it was inherited by his grandson, who had the power to use it in holiness. However, he had full faith in God and did not use it, as the old man had commanded. The talkers among the demons tried to tempt the old man's grandson. He had mature daughters, and the talkers told him, Your daughters are getting older, and you do not have money to support them or marry them off. You should therefore make use of this book. The grandson did not know that the talkers were tempting him. He thought that it was his heart that was giving him this advice. But he traveled to his grandfather's grave and asked him, You left orders in your will that we not use this book, that we only have faith in God. But now my heart is tempting me to use it. The deceased sage answered, Even though you have the power to use it in holiness, it is better for you to have faith in God. Do not make use of it. God will help you, he replied. Then one day the king of the land where the old man's grandson lived became ill. He went to physicians, but they could not cure him. The land was very hot, so the remedies did not help him. The king then decreed that the Israelites should pray for them. Our demon king said, This grandson has the power to use this book in holiness, but he refrains from using it. Therefore, we should do something for his benefit. With that, our king commanded me to become a cloud there. The human king would then be healed by the remedies that he had taken earlier, and those he would take later. The sage's grandson did not know anything about all this. This is the story of how I became a cloud here. This was the story that the cloud told the messenger. The former cripple followed them and listened. The cloud was brought to the demon king. The king ordered that the cloud's strength be taken and given back to the island king. And it was done. The demon's son was then able to return to his parents. The demon's son came back worn out and in great pain. He did not have any strength, since he had been tortured very much there. He was very angry at the sorcerer who had tortured him so much, and he left orders to his sons and their families that they should always lie in wait to trap the sorcerer. The talkers among the demons went and told the sorcerer to watch himself, since this family was lying in wait for him. The sorcerer made use of his devices to protect himself from them, and also sought the help of other sorcerers who knew other families. The demon's son and his family were very furious at the talkers for revealing their secret plans for revenge to the sorcerer. Once the son's family and some talkers were going to serve a term of duty for the demon king. The family fabricated a false accusation against the talkers, and the king killed them. The surviving talkers were very angry, and they incited rebellion against all the kings. The demons were stricken with hunger, weakness. Sword, and plague. There were wars among all the kings, and this caused earthquakes. The ditches fell in, and the tree was completely watered. All the demons were then destroyed, and nothing remained of them. Amen. Happy is the man who does not walk, does not stand, and in the place of jokers does not sit. He shall be like a tree planted on streams of water. This entire story is alluded to in the psalm. He who has eyes should see, and he who has a heart should understand what is happening in the world. In Hebrew, Nassim explains this. The following notes are found in the original at the end of the story. The mystery of this story is alluded to in the first verse of the psalm. Happy is the man. It speaks of the way of the wicked, the way of the righteous. This is the concept of the paths. which have the powder spread, as mentioned above. It says, he shall be like a tree planted on streams of water, which gives its fruit in its time, and its leaf does not wither. And in whatever he does, he prospers. This is the tree mentioned above. All its fruit and trees of great power is mentioned above. Look carefully and you will find other allusions. Happy is the man who does not walk, for at first he cannot walk, and does not stand. Later he could also, and does not stand. Later he also could not stand. And in the sitting place of jokers, this is the sitting of the aforementioned individuals who engage in scoffing. Like the chaff which the wind drives away, this is the wind that carries the above-mentioned powder. All this is only an illusion which enlightens our eyes a little, so that we will understand and be somewhat intelligent, maskil, to whatever extent the words reach. However, the words are still hidden with the ultimate concealment. All these stories that he told are very high. They are very much higher than human intellect and hidden from the eye of all life.